people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV. Lots of cool people. Tune in. Keep it locked.
I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really wanna taste of this, no safety tip. The same mistake and spray the clip. I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them. There's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them. I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms. Fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't obeyed. My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you...
How in God's name did we get here? How do we get to a place where elected officials sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States are openly aligning themselves with communist organizations like the Venceremos Brigade? This isn't some harmless cultural exchange program. No, the Venceremos Brigade is a Marxist front. It was born out of the Cold War and fueled by Castro's regime and designed with one mission: to export communist ideology to the heart of American society under the disguise of solidarity. And they're succeeding, but not with bombs, with ideas, not with tanks, but with influencers. And what's worse is members of our Congress, people we voted in, have been affiliated with it, and they have not condemned it. They've stood with it. They're affiliated with it, and nobody seems to care. Let me make this crystal clear. Our Constitution and communism cannot coexist. One is built on liberty and individual rights and freedom of speech, and the other is adversely opposed to that. The other, communism, destroys all of that. The centralization of power is what it calls for. Silences the sin, punishes faith, and it treats the government like God. So when a public servant stands with communists, they're standing against the Constitution, and there's no gray area here. There's no middle ground. You don't get to raise your right hand and swear an oath to the Republic and then turn around and march with those who want to burn it down. This isn't about party lines. This isn't about preserving the soul of our republic. If we don't call it out now, if we don't shine a light on this infiltration, our children will grow up in a nation where freedom is just a memory and Marx is the new Messiah. So buckle up, because tonight we're going to expose the rot. We're going to name names and trace connections. And we're here to remind you that those enemy of liberties, our liberties, both foreign and domestic, that the American people are wide awake and we're not backing down, plain and simple. So here it is. Nunzio, we're going to go through the whole connection. Bernadette Dorn, Karen Bass, the history of the Venceremos Brigade, the open seditious act of the left being buried, enabled, and co-signed by our media. Our president being condemned for upholding the Constitution, and people condemning him for sending in the military to stomp it out. We said long ago, and long before the election was even over, we said, when you have 20 million plus people in your country, undocumented people, members of people that are on the terror watch list, 20 million people. We said the left were going to weaponize those people in an effort to start a civil war in which the hero will be painted as the enemy and the enemy as the hero. Do you see that happening?
Good evening, Patriots. Good evening, Eddie. Yeah, And I have to say, the good thing I do see too is Americans are seeing right through it this time. And I'm very proud of us and our fellow citizens, because I think that we're finally catching on, and we're seeing the games that they're playing. We saw this setup, we were expecting it, and they're hitting almost every note that we expected them to hit. But I know and I trust that you and our fellow citizens, we're not going to fall for it this time. It's been too much. And how anyone could think the head of the executive branch, keeping Americans safe from non-citizens in our own country, is tyranny. I think we got to get some more dictionaries printed and get them out there, because people seem to not know what the meaning of words are anymore.
You know, and it's to me, it's plain and simple. We've seen communism, we've seen socialism all throughout history. None of them ever worked. Every new messiah that pops up saying, yeah, but those people did it wrong, we're going to do it right. And then millions of people die and starve. The people at the top, the people in power, live lavishly while everybody else becomes poor. There's no middle class. It's the elite and the desperate and poor and dying. Look at what just happened in Venezuela. Right? He was going to do it right too. Now look, we were one of the 10 most bustling economies in the world, and now they're a third world country within a matter of a few years. And people like Einstein over here, who are praising Marxists and saying that we're just using word games, are standing with people that are throwing firebombs at police cars.
You know, I love studying Latin, because for 2,000 years, they've been telling the same story. Republics work, and republics have continued to work. And if you look at whenever someone's starting a new country, don't they have voting and go for a republic? I mean, I think the jury has not only come back, but the jury has had 4 generations. We know republics are the way to go. And we're going to get into it in this episode. But, you know, one of the reasons they say that Karen Bass had to go to Cuba was so that we could learn or help them grow sugarcane. You know what helps you grow sugarcane? A free and open market. And exactly. The funny part is they went there and the sugarcane crop failed. So you were going to a communist country to learn that their system failed firsthand, and yet you continue to learn. You weren't learning from them. You were subverting America, and you were undoing our culture. And when we hear about USAID and all these FBI and CIA programs, this is it. They sent her to become American.
How many Cubans have you heard over the years? I dated a Cuban years ago. And their whole family told me, you know, the horrors of communism, and they come here and they're absolutely praising our country. Those first generation Cubans that came here are not the ones we're dealing with. We're dealing with their stupid ass children that didn't actually live out the you know, see what happened between Batista and Castro. You know, Castro was going to come in. He was going to be the savior of the people. And then he turns around and murders Che Guevara, who is another monster altogether, who
somehow becomes a hero.
Yeah, and he's a hero, absolute hero. Let's take a look at. We'll do the history of the Venceremos Brigade first. This is the. Let's take a look here. We're going to talk about each of these clips and take people through the whole thing, so that they completely understand.
1969. Just 7 years after the implementation of the Cuban embargo, a group of young activists created the Venceremos Brigade, an organization looking to challenge the U.S. policies towards Cuba, including the economic blockade and the government's travel ban on the island.
So what we do is we organize around the U.S. and we make travels to Cuba every summer to build solidarity with the Cuban people, to learn more about Cuban history, but also to show the United States that we have our constitutional right to travel, and we're going to practice that.
This will be the 42nd year that the Venceremos Brigade travels to Cuba, never asking for a license from the U.S. government, because as we all agree that we are united in our belief that it is our—
But look at them. They did not grow up in Cuba. They weren't there under Castro. Like I said, these are not those Cubans.
Our right to travel. Our
no idea what they're talking about either.
To exchange ideas, to see Cuba.
I bet you their grandpas would slap them.
When in Cuba, the group developed several activities, including meetings with local organizations and getting involved in agricultural and construction work in many parts of the island.
I've been building, and talking to youth is probably, for me, the most important, because I'm a teacher, and I think it's important to build that kind of solidarity. And so how is it to go to school?
How can you tell if someone's a communist before they even open their mouth? I don't know. I don't know how I know. I can just look at this woman and tell you she's a communist.
Here, like, what do you guys learn? And they always have.
I think it's got something to do with the eyebrows. Communism may be genetic. I don't know why all communists have the eyebrows.
She's a liar. And everything you're seeing, from the eye movements to the mouth movements, are the things that people make when they're lying to you, because they don't even believe what they're talking about. How do you sit in America and say, like, you have an American system, and yet you're arguing that this failed system is going to somehow help the better system you're living in?
Exactly.
United States, because they hear all this talk, and so it's always a beautiful experience just to share and build and laugh and dance.
Although all of them are aware that travels without a license are against the law, they are willing to face the consequences.
When you come back from Cuba on the brigade, there is this risk of being targeted by the officer.
Are you being targeted? Are you really being targeted? Didn't you sign up for this? I mean,
foreign assets control, and we might get fined, and we might be asked to present ourselves in front of a hearing, which we welcome. We want the opportunity to have that discussion. Like, why as Americans are we not able to travel freely to this country 90 miles off of our coast?
I would love to answer that question for her, because if you remove Western culture from the 1770s, there is no America. If you remove Latin and reading Roman philosophy, there is no America. There's no Senate, there's no Congress, there's no President, which are all Latin terms directly from Rome. So the reason you have to cut something like Cuba off is because that culture is a direct antithetical threat to our culture. There are two cultures that cannot exist if one is going to take advantage of the other. It's called parasitical.
Is exactly what I said in the opening monologue. Communism and our republic cannot coexist. And I've said it before. Socialism is sedition. By nature, it is sedition, because there are no free markets. There are no individual rights. Your rights are given to you based on what group you belong to. Now we're worried about social classes, people living off welfare. You're owed something by right of birth. Like, this is antithetical to everything the United States has ever stood for, right? We stand on a culture that says we're going to give you the opportunity to become something, not that you're assured to become something. And in the government they want, you're going to be assigned a job. You're not going to get to choose. You're going to be assigned a job, and then you'll get a stipend from the government. Nobody's rich, but nobody's poor. So you know what happens? We're all poor except for the people in power.
Because there's so much pride, we won't talk about it and we won't admit it. Even though we're coming from America, that seems to be light years ahead of what they're showing in their farming. Did they bring advanced farming to Cuba? No, they watched them have a crop failure. For what? For pride? Like, I don't understand what the point is. It's okay to be proud of a culture, but you are literally, in what these women are saying is, they think that the Cuban culture somehow is more important than American. Why are they not studying American culture?
Why didn't they just stay in Cuba? Why did they come back here?
Stay in Cuba? If you have no interest in the founding fathers, if you have no interest in Rome and Western philosophy, how are you going to be American? This has been established for 250 years. This is the greatest thing humans have created on Earth.
On Earth, ever in history.
This is an illogical, emotional argument. And this is what happens when you have emotional arguments instead of logical arguments. You have these two women who she talks about being a teacher. I don't understand what they're teaching. There's a lot of words here, but I don't see any sciences. I don't see anything constructive, but a threat to America, an ideology that was a threat to America. And they're trying to import it here, which Karen Bass has done.
And in spades. So what I notice is when you ask these people who know they are exactly what they are, they're communists, they're seditionists, they're socialists, they're Marxists. when you ask them to explain, they give you these long, drawn-out explanations. If something is good or bad, you can explain it in like 2 sentences. You don't need to go into this whole other realm of explaining where it takes, read this whole book and it's this thick and you'll get it. Like, no, right and wrong is so basic. A child can explain it to you. It's that simple. It's that simple. Now, that's their explanation as to what it is. Let's take a listen to what it really is.
1983. Remember this date, but first, let me introduce you to Karen Bass. Back in the 1970s, community activist Karen Bass went on at least 15 trips to Cuba, many with a group known as the Venceremos Brigade, a Marxist group started by the Castro regime to subvert American interests, weaken democracies, and spread communism around the world. Founded in 1969, the Venceremos Brigade organized trips to Cuba every year for half a century. They attracted the most radicalized and delusional segments of the American left, including overtly Maoist and pro-Soviet communist groups. In fact, a Los Angeles police investigator who infiltrated the group testified to Congress saying that to be a member of the brigade, you had to be confirmed as a Marxist-Leninist, as a brigadista, and then moving up the ranks to organizer for the Venceremos Brigade. Karen Bass visited Cuba every 6 months. Their mission? To radicalize young, impressionable American leftists in terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Members of the Venceremos Brigade were even taught how to make bombs.
Jesus Christ!
Karen Bass admits, on her many pilgrimages to Cuba, she went to see Fidel Castro speak several times, even calling him charismatic, and upon his death, praised him, saying, "The passing of Commandant en Jefe is a great loss to the people of Cuba, even though the people of Cuba see him as a dictator who impoverished their island." Another group, the M19, took its belief in revolutionary anti-imperialism to extremes, violent extremes. The M19 was the first and only women-created and women-led domestic terrorist group. Since their founding in 1978, M19's tactics escalated from robbing armored trucks and abetting prison breaks to building their own explosives and carrying out terrorist bombings. From 1983 to 1984, M19 bombed an FBI office, the Israel Aircraft Industries building, the South African consulate in New York, DC's Fort McNair, and Navy Yard, which they bombed twice. But that wasn't enough for them. On the night of November 7, 1983, the M19 called the US Capitol switchboard and warned them to evacuate the building. Minutes later, the M19 bombed the north wing of the US Capitol. November 7, 2023 marks 40 years since the M19's bombing of the US Capitol. Members of the M19, like Susan Rosenberg, traveled to Cuba with and were radicalized by the Venceremos Brigade. The South Los Angeles Venceremos Brigade was led by Karen Bass, who is now mayor of Los Angeles.
So it's no wonder why this woman has the ideology she has. It's no wonder she's speaking out and saying things like this.
We do not want to play into the administration's hands. We're working with officials, we're organizing resources, but what we're seeing in Los Angeles is chaos that is provoked by the administration. When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And
so let me explain something. They didn't say a damn thing when when George Bush deported 17 million people, followed by him, Bill Clinton, who deported around 18 or 19 million people, who followed by Obama, who deported another 10. And let's not forget Bill Clinton, whose idea it was to build the wall between Mexico and America. They didn't have a freaking thing to say when it was them doing it. Donald Trump deports 100,000 people, and there are injunctions, judges, all these people standing up trying to stop what he's doing, and not because of what he's doing, but because it's him doing it. It's Donald Trump doing it. So that's why Donald Trump has to smash, demolish. I don't care. It's like killing a roach with a sledgehammer. I don't care. Send in the military, send in Navy SEALs, send in Rangers, send in the damn whoever you got to send in. Helicopters, freaking jets. I don't care what you got to do. Smash this thing. Put these damn terrorists in fear, and then put the seditionists that invoke these people and dog whistle to them in handcuffs right behind them. So when you hear people like what's his name, Newsom say, "Come arrest me," like right here.
Years, the fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn, but I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
The perception is there's a lot of...
So, yes, Donald Trump said, go ahead, arrest him. If that's what you want to do, Tom Homan, do it. And I'm 100% behind him. Because when he arrests him, what he arrests him for is a felony. You know what comes behind that? Impeachment.
Because they hit the high crime bar.
Exactly. Impeachment. And then right behind him, you put Karen Bass. Right behind her, you put Hakeem Jeffries. And then because of 212A, which is in our code on house.gov, it says that if you are a communist, when you come to our borders, you're not allowed in. Now, in 1993, Bill Clinton signed a law into effect that made that it decriminalized communism in the United States. Prior to that, it was illegal to be a communist in the United States until Bill Clinton signed that law. But INA 212 still makes it very clear that you cannot immigrate to the United States as a communist. And socialism is a form of communism. So when you have members of the United States Senate and Congress that belong to the DSA and groups like the Venceremos Brigade who leave our country in favor of another country and swear fidelity to that country, they are no longer legally. We just don't have anyone with balls big enough to actually enforce the law.
Well, as I always say, it's up to us. We're the last checks and balance, and it's going to come up to the American people start organizing behind lawyers to make sure this doesn't happen. You know, I'm just looking up because I forgot about Rosenberg. We're always told to watch out for terrorists because they're Muslim men. But Rosenberg blew up the Capitol. Do you know what happened to her? She served 16 years, and then guess who pardoned her? Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton or Obama. Yeah, one or two, I was going to say.
Why are you pardoning someone that blew up a government building? January 6 people walk in the building and you want 20 years. Rosenberg blew up the building and Bill Clinton pardoned her.
Where did Bill Clinton
under the rug? Let
me ask you a question. Where did when we were sending people to Vietnam and Bill Clinton disappeared because he didn't want to go to war? He was a draft dodger. Where did Bill Clinton go to protest? Just go ahead and look. I'll give you a second to look.
Where did Clinton go when he draft dodged?
Yep.
It's not saying.
I'll give you another couple seconds and I'll tell you, and you can fact check me.
Looks like they scrubbed it. They're trying hard not to answer this question.
I
can't answer it any more directly than where did Bill Clinton go when he dodged the draft? And oh my God, AI is dancing around this question. It's really unbelievable. You know, when I was looking up Karen Bass, it's unbelievable to see how it's like CIA talking points come straight out of the AI. I had to dig deep to find anything with her and Vencer. I mean, she's connected to someone that bombed the Capitol. It is unbelievable, everyone. Just remember, when you're looking out there, if you're using American search engines and American, well, if we could even call it.
I'm going to use this screen right here to show you. This way, nobody can say that I'm making this up or whatever. Here it is right here. I'm gonna put it on screen, and then you can see for yourself. I think that's it right there. Where did Bill Clinton go? Can you see it? The Soviet Union. And he attended anti-war events. The story was a bit more nuanced. Here's a simpler breakdown.
Oh my God, dude, mine says he went to Oxford and studied at Georgetown for 2 years.
No, he didn't. In 1970, he actually he actually went to the Red Square, right? So it says in 1970, while Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar studying at Oxford, right? And that's true, by way of Oxford. Now, keep in mind, he got drafted and then he left. At Oxford, he traveled to Moscow during winter break. While in Europe, he attended protests against the Vietnam War, including one in London, and then he visited Moscow and Prague. There are no public records of him protesting in Russia itself, but his visit to Moscow is widely known and not contested. It raises eyebrows. Critics have questioned whether he was influenced by Soviet sympathizers, communists, but there's no evidence that Clinton was working with the Soviets at that time. The controversy was during his 1992 campaign, Clinton's trip to the USSR was used by opposition to question his partisanship when he was in his draft dodging past. So this is a fact. And then when you take into consideration that he is the reason that communism is no longer illegal in the United States. And then
you go to the communists that blew up the Capitol.
Exactly. And who else did he pardon?
Oh,
William Ayres.
So many people.
William Ayres, the founder of the Weatherman Underground. His wife, Bernadette Dorn, is connected to who?
Karen Bass.
Karen Bass. So there's the connection right there, right? So when you're looking at these people, there's usually no more than like 1 degree of separation between any of these. If you take a look into the Venceremos, the past of the Venceremos Brigade, so like the FBI monitored the Venceremos Brigade extensively, it says, particularly in the 60s and 70s, suspecting that it was a vehicle for Cuban intelligence, radicalize and recruit young Americans. The declassified FBI and CIA documents suggest that the brigade was seen and influenced and co-organized by Cuba's general, I want to get this right, Directorate of Intelligence, or DGI, with concerns it served to recruit politically oriented individuals in the United States that might later gain influential U.S. government positions.
That would be really dangerous. If someone like that got elected to be mayor, I mean, we could see a major city burn down. Oh.
Yes, but in troll, yes, Trump did pardon people. And some people I disagree with, but Trump did not pardon members of domestic terrorist groups. Trump did not pardon members of the Venceremos Brigade who were guilty, even if just by association or 1 degree away from bombings that took place in the United States Capitol. He was not a president who sat down and kicked off his political career the way that Obama bin Laden did, and with William Ayres, who co-wrote or ghost-wrote the book Dreams from My Father. And then when he was sitting in front of Chris Wallace, Mike Wallace's son, and he was asked about this very thing, he said, well, he did those things when I was 9 years old. I was 39 when I met him. And then Chris Wallace let him off the hook easy. Yes, so if you met him at 9, I can give you a pass. You're 9. But you met him at 39. You knew the guy was a domestic terrorist. You knew he was involved with bombing, killing of police officers, was part of a domestic terrorist group. And you know what William Ayers does today? He's a professor at Chicago U. So he is indoctrinating our youth. He gets to teach. He gets to teach his ideology, and you get to pay a university to have your child go to that university and be brainwashed by these senseless bastards. Now, if you take a look at Obama's beginnings, he leaves the country at 5 years old. He goes to Indonesia. He's adopted by Lolo Soetoro. His name then becomes Barry Soetoro. At 14 years old, after attending an Islamic academy disguised as a Catholic school in Indonesia.
Soetoro was like a CIA hitman, right?
Yes, he ran death brigades. And so did Obama's own grandmother, Granny Sarah, in Kenya. So when he came back to the United States, he used his brother's paperwork to get back into the country. So he gets back into the country. His mother gets sick. So she gives him to his grandparents to raise. She left Lolo Soetoro because he became a capitalist. She didn't want to be married to a capitalist.
The killing is fine. But
capitalism is just a little too much.
Do not go there.
Little too much. So now his grandparents have him, and just to continue with his communist upbringing, who do they introduce him to be a mentor our grandson in Hawaii? None other than Franklin Marshall Davis. Franklin Marshall Davis wrote the book, The American Communist. He also wrote his referral letter to Harvard Law. So all those times when he's talking about hanging out on the beach with Frank, smoking weed in his book, that's who he's talking about. The guy who literally was on the FBI watch list. So now we can connect him to being a student of Saul Alinsky and Rules for Radicals. We know that's his ideology. It's where he comes from. If anyone believes what Larry Sinclair said, he's also very homosexual and loves to smoke crack. So there's that particular little bit of tidbit of news.
You just sprinkle the smoking crack on top.
They just sprinkle the smoking crack. Just sprinkle crack on them. Then you have the influence of Bernadette Dorn and William Ayers, who get him into the political game. So he's an alderman. The person who's sitting in the U.S. Senate seat at that time abandons the seat. So he assumes the seat. He didn't get voted in. Many people don't know this. He wasn't voted in. So 6 months into that seat,
he just appeared out of nowhere.
Like,
who is
out of
this?
nowhere.
Who is that?
And then all of a sudden,
candidate. This is what a Manchurian candidate is.
The woman who abandoned the seat loses her other political bid, comes back, tries to take her chair or seat back, and he writes protests, and has a bunch of other people do it as well. And then so he remains in power. 6 months into that seat of power, which he didn't get voted into, he decides to launch a campaign for president. Who's on his side? Oprah, all these people. Then all of a sudden, Donald, and I'll remember his last name later. I promise you, he was the other guy that was assumed to be the gay lover of Obama at that point in time. He's the same man who left all of the audio messages on Larry Sinclair's answering machine telling him it's dangerous to talk about this stuff. Shut up. And then later on, he was found murdered in his car. Now, link him also to the Trinity Church in Chicago that was pastored by Jeremiah Wright. Jeremiah Wright was the guy who belonged to a certain faith called Black Liberal Theology, which is just a fancy name for Islam. So they give the Man of the Year award to Louis Farrakhan, but you're a Christian. And then you illegally meet with Gaddafi, but you're a Christian. The whole time preaching racist rhetoric, saying things like the U.S. KKK of A, and saying how black people are different than whites and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just putting out the most racist innuendo ever. Obama got married by this guy. His children got baptized by this guy. But it wasn't until he was running for president, and this guy was backing him in the beginning. He was there on stage, preaching for him, talking for him. But when the recordings came out about what he was saying in the service, then all of a sudden, publicly, Obama disavows him. Like, he never said any of those things when I was around. So now you got Gaddafi, Louis Farrakhan, William Ayers, Franklin Marshall Davis. You have Lolo Soetoro, Bernadette Dorn. How many other people do you need to link this guy to before you start to understand what his father came here for? He's colonialist.
I don't know why we are forced to jump through so many hoops. This guy did not grow up in America with a normal nuclear family. He was not studying Western European philosophy, which is what America is based on and what makes us work so well. It's the Roman system. It's been around for 2,000 years plus, 2,500 years, actually 27,7. Okay. So nearly 3,000 years we've had this system that works. Now we have these people who are just an unbelievable amount of facts proving that they're going out of their way, not just to learn other ideologies, but ideologies that are specifically created to undermine our ideology that gives us freedom.
Exactly right.
These are not other options. These are parasite ideas that have to feed off a republic, because only with a republic and open market do you get what we get. And then the parasites come in. They hate it. Even though you come here, you hate it so much. And yet there's always these other ideologies. They always have the same thing. They can't support themselves. Is Cuba doing okay? Did the Soviet Union turn out well? No,
I'll give you an example. Mikhail Khrushchev said something that was very true, and it came to pass. He said that the United States will never accept communism. But if you spoon feed it socialism over a long period of time, they not only will accept it, but they will begin to crave it. So we had things that were introduced by Roosevelt, like welfare, which was a temporary program at the time to help people coming back from the war. There's no such thing as a temporary government program. The Department of Education came in under Carter. All of us got dumber as a result. Went from number 1 in education to 26. States were sending over $100 billion a year to this bloated federal bureaucracy that did nothing but dumb our children down.
Look at scientific advancement. In the 30s, 40s, 50s, each decade, there were huge What's the last scientific advancement we made since the computer? Making the computer faster. Physics has been stalled for 50 to 40 years. They have no idea what's going on in physics. They can't even prove what they're trying to prove. I mean, we haven't been. Have we been back to the moon? Like, what are we doing scientifically?
I'm one that believes we didn't go in the first place, but that's just me.
It's starting to sound. No, you know what, dude? It's actually. I mean, I wouldn't believe it at this point. But
we went in depth on that particular subject, me and Nate Kane, and I actually have a clip somewhere here on the computer of Neil Armstrong saying we didn't go.
Well, Neil, Buzz, but the point is, if you just want to look at the footprints, where's our scientific community? What happened to the water cars? You know, you can split water with electric and burn it. Mm-hmm. You don't. There's no magic to it. You put an electric into water and you
separates the hydrogen. Separates the hydrogen
back into water. We've all seen the videos. We all know this exists. Where are the water engines?
And what are the emissions?
Oxygen.
Oxygen, because it separates the hydrogen from the oxygen as fuel, and the only emissions from that car are literally oxygen. So yeah, and there have been many working prototypes, but they never have came to pass. The same reason why when Tesla built that big tower and he was going to give energy away for free, JP Morgan said, hold up, wait, free, and pulled his funding. Same thing. I mean, and Scholl's right. And that's where, you know, there is a balance between the two, where capitalism and greed can overshadow what's good for people
Well, see,
as a whole.
That's the funny thing. Greed destroys capitalism.
Yes, it does. Well, that's late stage capitalism, and that's different than capitalism, meaning that you have the opportunity, because that 1% in the United States, every year there are different people listed there. It is constantly evolving and changing.
Here's what I want to point out. If it wasn't for Obama in 2008, all the banks would have failed. So new banks would have arisen, which would have meant there would have been a complete natural restructuring of it. So the only reason our capitalism is failing is because of the socialism that was forced upon it. Everyone likes to say firemen are socialist. I don't believe that. I think that it's capitalist. I think you make enough money so everyone can afford to pay for firemen. Yes, we force everyone to pay taxes, but that's the point of capitalist society, is you can make enough resources to choose to have things like firemen. Now we say firemen are socialists. We're a socialist country. Not really, because firemen are not everywhere equally. If you go to different neighborhoods, you have different level of fire service, different level of cop service, that's a form of capitalism that works itself out. The problem is we have a small group of people that realize to stay on top, you have to break our system that prevents this. That's the point of a democratic republic. We stop a couple people from having too much money and power. But when you have an Obama and you have a 2008 where the banks are too big to fail, whatever that means, they gave them our wealth by causing mass inflation, by printing all that money, and somehow it never had to be paid back. Why are the American people not screaming about that?
Well, there's a law about that. There's actually an agreement that we have with the Federal Reserve Bank that says they're not allowed to give out secret loans, and any money they print to give out loans separately are money they themselves are borrowing from that system. So they are responsible to put it back, or it's theft. So all those secret loans they gave out in 2008 when the housing market crashed, and they were giving all those loans to the larger banks, which was supposed to be used to stimulate the economy and lent to people like you and me, weren't lent to people like you and me. They were lent, and those institutions bought up smaller failing institutions, because what they did was they put in mortgage-backed bonds, right? So they knew they were putting out all these houses out on arms and things like that, and they were all going to fail. So they sold all those failing loans to the smaller banks, and they bought them, and now they're holding on to all that debt. And then the larger banks came along and just swallowed them up. So the larger banks got larger, the small to mid-sized banks disappeared, and the rich got richer, and the poor got poorer.
Now here's the part that blows your mind.
And those people got paid off. Barney Frank paid off. Obama was the second largest recipient of funds from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac during 2008. His hand was in the cookie jar just about more than anybody else.
And don't forget all the book tours. But here's the best part. Those houses didn't go anywhere. They created all this debt, and then because of Obama, they were able to package and resell the debt. Where did all that come from? That was overinflated value that never should have existed. That was turned into debt that never should have existed. Those houses are still there, owned by different people. And now this debt is still in the system, and we're paying for it because it turns into inflation.
Yeah.
So us.
Let's take a break real quick. We'll come right back after this.
Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down. Working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by A.J. Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke Ents, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both AJ and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.
Can't wait to use From the Table. That looks like it's an amazing service. We were talking to a lot of farmers who would really love to get connected with that. I gotta connect them with some people we're doing on the Homestead show. Really look forward to that. So I think we were talking about Obama and bringing up the whole connection to Karen Bass, because we wanted to bring it back to what's going on in LA and to maybe offer the opportunity to look at this as this is not an organic uprising, but these are almost generational plans. I mean, we're talking 1960s, 1970s. Obama was groomed since he was young. This is the terrifying part of the deep state. It's like they've actually handed it off from generation to generation. And I mean, we elected Bush 1 and we elected his son. So on some level, you know, I think Americans, we got to take that a little bit. We don't have kings for a reason. And yet we were practicing nepotism. And look what we got. We had a CIA director who put a son in. And the country has gotten steadily worse since then. So for today, to kind of bring it back to Bass, she has this connection to a group that was bombing U.S. buildings. She's training in Cuba. They're saying they're going over there to help with a sugar cane harvest, but the sugar cane's failing. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think the bottom line we can get from this, like Eddie and I have been discussing, is I don't see any American training. I don't see any Latin. I don't see any Western philosophy. You know, how do you know something doesn't work if you don't understand it? So unless Karen Bass, and I've been looking at her, you know, for a while and all day, I don't see any point of her studying and having a deep understanding of the Western European systems that built this country and built many of the other most successful countries to date. So if you don't really understand our system, can you really, like, are you really criticizing it? Or is there a much more nefarious purpose where you're just a pawn on the chessboard?
Yeah, there's a much more nefarious purpose. Absolutely.
Single week, we have a litigation working group where a large group of us, and I'm talking there's maybe 75 members of the House, sit down every single week with the AGs to talk about legal strategy. This is all going on every single week behind the scenes. It is nonstop talk, nonstop introduction of bills and legislation, nonstop being on social media as much as we can without being throttled and without the, you know, crazy analytics, and doing all these things.
So, translation, we're having secret meetings with the other Democrats and other socialists and other Marxists and other people that are trying to overthrow the seats of power in this government behind the president's back to figure out how we can thwart everything that he's trying to do to fix the country. That's literally what she said. Secret meetings. She literally used the term secret meetings.
And if you look at most of the legal traps that they've set and most of the ways that, you know, this very greedy group of people that's kind of well established at this point, the people who work on Wall Street, all these people, the one thing they have in common is when they make these changes, it's always at night, on a weekend, after closing. It's never done out in the open.
It's never done out in the open.
And that's the one thing I look forward to, Americans, is remember, when we set this right, we don't have to hide. We get to do this at noon in full sunlight because we have the truth and honor and goodness on our side. So that's the one white pill, if I can use that term. The one good thing is they had to sneak around. They had to play all these games to change the rules. We're going to start changing the rules back if we can organize and get behind lawyers. We don't have to hide. We could say it out in the open. We could say you're wrong. We could say burning LA down to the ground. probably means that you should have resigned or faced some kind of trial. And that's where we have to get back to.
I just don't understand a system that allows someone that's linked to the things that we just showed to be able to be in charge of the lawfare in this country. And there's so much more than that. That's just what I was able to find in the last few hours. I mean, if you dig up the actual FBI files, it gets so much worse than that, because what it shows is that they insulated themselves as a group, talking about the Venceremos Brigade. And what they did was they spun off a bunch of terrorists from the group into other groups. You heard about the one the guy spoke about earlier called M19. You have the Weatherman Underground. And there were several other groups where people that were once members of that Venceremos Brigade then went on to become members of other groups, which did then commit terrorist acts. So Rosenberg, right? The brigade participant joined on May 19th, the communist organization domestic terrorist group. She was later convicted for weapons possession and pardoned in 2001. We all know who was president in 2001. Bernadette Dorn, a key organizer that was involved with the Weather Underground terrorist group responsible for bombings in the U.S. on the FBI's most wanted list, but never convicted in connection with the crimes. Why? Because who was president at the time? It seems to always come back to that. Other brigade members were linked to the Weather Underground or Revolutionary Communist Party, according to the 1972 Internal Security Committee report, which described the brigade as a Cuban-backed operation spreading Marxist ideology with ties to domestic terror groups. And then in 1977, the FBI alleged that some brigade members received weapons training in Cuba through Karen Bass. So a prominent brigade participant denied that those activities ever took place. So it must be all lies, even though they just keep spinning off members of terrorist groups and insulating themselves from the problem. These connections are often cited in critiques, but they pertain to individuals' actions after leaving the brigade. So all you got to do is say, okay, we're going to train them in the brigade, send them over here, and then if anyone gets caught, they're a member of that group and not this group.
I mean, this is the standard CIA, FBI, USAID playbook. They create a third party so that they can carry out plans, and then anything that happens, it's a third party. Are you telling me the CIA and FBI weren't on top of these people going back and forth to Cuba? You're not allowed to go to Cuba. They were flying to Cuba. Are you telling me that our intelligence wasn't on top of this? Plus, everything we found out about our intelligence makes it seem like maybe they're not actually on our side.
What? I was going to go there. Thank you. So maybe it's even deeper than that, because who's Trump battling? The deep state. And it looks like these guys
the head of the CIA, right? So exactly. The CIA became president. Are you telling me that wasn't the deep state getting all of their hooks in the right? And then his son gets his son who has an IQ of a chimp? I mean, do you remember that man couldn't put a sentence together? Let alone nothing about 9/11 makes sense.
What he say? Fool me, can't get fooled again.
Oh, that was golden.
We used to call them Bushisms. And they were funny as hell.
They were funny as hell.
Dude, they made a cartoon.
Go back to Bush trying to put a sentence together.
Go back. There's a cartoon out there somewhere, and it's called Lil Bush. And it is the funniest cartoon. I think they got out like 3/4 of a season, and they took it off the air. But they should have kept it going, man. They had a little Tony Blair.
But
it was hilarious.
George Washington and all those did all this so we would never have a king. You don't vote for the son of a former president. That's how you get a king. We don't do nepotism. You don't get something because your blood. You get it because you earned it. The second Bush did not earn the presidency. He didn't. And this is what happens when you put people who don't earn the presidency. Like, there are long-term effects to this stuff.
You know, when you take a look at especially Bush, and you take a look back to Barbara Bush and then her family and Prescott Bush and George Herbert Walker, not George Herbert Walker Bush, but George Herbert Walker, the grandfather, and then Prescott Bush. And then their seed became the president. They were funding Hitler during World War II against the United States. They owned Brown Brothers Harriman Bank and Hamburg American Shipping Lines. Congress actually froze their assets because of their involvement in funding the enemy. And it was funny because what Bush did, and I said that, record that, play it back. What Bush did when the trade centers fell was exactly what Hitler did when the Reichstag burned. The Reichstag burned. He blamed it on terrorists. He set up Reich security, Gestapo, took the rights away from the people. What did we do? The Twin Towers collapsed, burned, Solomon Brothers building along with it 6 hours later for no reason at all. We have no idea.
A building falls down on itself and a whole nation of people decide not to say anything.
Exactly. That's how
possible.
That's how brainwashed the media has people. But after that, what did they do? They signed a 525-page document in the dead of night that they admitted that they never even read, that John Ashcroft drafted
Weekends,
5 years before.
after close, always.
So when you look at the ties of the Bush family to Hitler, which are significant, and then you look at what Bush did following 9/11, all the way down to the Patriot Act, just like the Reich security, he created Homeland Security. That's just like Reich security. And the idea beyond from that point forward was that what his father said a long time ago in a speech. He said, we have an opportunity before us to forge a new world order. And since that day until now, we have been fighting globalists. That has been the end game for years and years and years. And these useful idiots that call themselves Marxists don't realize that if they were, hypothetically, if they were to succeed in tearing down the best, most freest system to ever exist, they will be lined up on a wall and shot because they're not useful beyond that point. Look at what Hitler did to the brown shirts. All right. They were used to cause chaos, sow dissent, a little bit of destruction, break down society, and then Hitler came in as the rescuer. And then next thing you know, the people were living under a Nazi-backed system where they didn't have the freedoms that they thought they were getting. And I mean, we can go a lot deeper into that about how the Jews had 66 of the 100 judge seats and how they got them and funded the Bolsheviks and the Red Army against the Nazis. Not the Nazis, but the German people during World War II. How they controlled 2/3 of the money in the world at that time, and they were using it to their benefit. And Hitler told 6 million Jews who occupied the country at that time to leave, and many of them did. So there are questions that I have about that era that still to this day have never been answered. And then the funny thing about it is if you ever ask them, you're immediately shamed. Don't ask those questions.
I mean, it's like, if you're going to act that way, you're going to tell me that something's up. But, and that period of history is very difficult, and it does need some more truth around it. But I keep coming back to this point where how much information is enough? If you tell me someone murdered my friend, I don't need to know what he ate for breakfast that day. That doesn't affect the murder.
You don't have to make up a lie that he slaughtered 20 people when he killed one.
Exactly. And
he's still just as evil.
And to bring it back to what we're talking about, Karen Bass here, I don't know why we have to jump through so many hurdles. The woman watched LA burn to the ground. There is more than enough credible evidence.
Where was she at when it happened?
Why are you out of the country if you're a mayor? If you're elected, you could stay here for whatever your term, 2 to 4 years. Like, that's your job. Stay in the country, you're a mayor. But
she was in Africa, which is also where
empty.
But what I'm getting at is, what does the Venceremos Brigade go and do quite often? They go to countries like Africa, Cuba, and whatnot. And where was she at while she was an elected official? In those countries, doing the things that she did as a brigatista, the same things. So most likely, without allegedly, or at least looks like or gives the appearance of her being still affiliated with this group.
You know, the way I like to look at it is people, you know, they like to frame this argument that, well, we have freedom here. You should be able to believe whatever you want. Yes, absolutely. But you're speaking English, aren't you?
Yeah, but
you're using our system. So on a certain
fire
level,
in a crowded room is not a practice of free speech. Freedom it goes only as my freedom goes as far as your liberty. That's where it stops.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. These ideas aren't thinking about the full. Our ideas say we're going to respect you as long as we can coexist together. There are other ideas that say you're going to follow my system or I'm going to force you to follow my system. We have such a great system. Look at how much our system has been pushed and it's still functioning, not functioning well, but other systems would have collapsed by now. Like, look at how much stress our democratic republic is putting up. Like,
but what's funny is you see these cretins, these people that really want to tear the system down, and they're saying they're doing it to protect democracy.
They don't understand the system. They've never taken the time to respect the system. Listen, if you want to tell me you're an expert in Latin and you know everything there is to know about Western philosophy and culture, maybe then I'll listen to you, but you don't. So how are you telling me that you know this system doesn't work? The same system that gives you the freedom to travel to Cuba and then to come back. Go live in Cuba, Karen. Oh, no. Oh, so you exploited our system to go. That gives you the freedom to be elected mayor and somehow face. Could you imagine what would have happened in Cuba if her city had burned down? What do you think Castro would have done to her?
The funny thing is that if Bill Clinton didn't sign that law into effect in 1993, her being an elected official right now would be illegal.
Because she officially claimed to be a communist?
A communist. She's a communist. So, I mean, thank you, Bill Clinton. You POS. You set us up for this. And let's not forget Black Hawk Down and all the other things that he's responsible for.
And Mrs. Rosenberg's pardon, because apparently bombing a building means you should get clemency, right? An actual American terrorist gets off.
I want to tell people, go to where would it be? Rumble. Go to Rumble and search up the Clinton Chronicles and watch the movie. You will know everything you need to know about the Clintons. It's about an hour and 10 minutes or so long. I promise you, by the end of that movie, you will have a completely full and real picture of who Bill and Hillary Clinton really are and how evil they really are. Don't forget, this is the same woman that walked into a courtroom and boldly stated, if I go down, everyone's going down. What does that mean? What were in those white envelopes that everybody got but Trump at Bush's funeral? Where they looked at the envelopes and they didn't know how to act. Everyone got them but Bush. But Trump. I really want to know what's in those envelopes. To this day, I want to know. If I ever get the opportunity to talk to Trump, I'm going to ask, what was in that envelope? Because I have every suspicion in the world that he was the one who put those envelopes there. I suspect. I don't know for sure, but he was the only one that didn't get one. And the looks on their faces said a lot when they opened those white envelopes. Also, the look on Hillary Clinton's face when she was being put into that car. I wonder who was in that car. Did you ever see that clip where Hillary Clinton is walking out to get into a car and she makes it to the curb, and when they open the door, she goes, tries to get away from the car, and they grab her and they put her in the car? Oh man, I got to show you this clip. I gotta show you this clip, dude.
I think we could say at this point that Bill and Hillary Clinton are two of the worst human beings to ever existed on Earth, but definitely two of the worst Americans. And again, I'm gonna say this over and over and over again until every town in America, good American patriots, organize and crowdfund so we can have a standing constitutional lawyer. We're the ones that are gonna lock her up, and we're the ones that are gonna file the lawsuit. Because if we don't, it's never going to happen, and stop waiting for people to do it. No one's going to do it but us. So until we organize and hold these people accountable, Hillary and Bill are going to keep laughing at us.
Watch this. There's Hillary. Watch what happens. So she's going to go get into the car. Right? Somebody else in that car, and she sees him. Now she's like, no, I'm not getting in that damn car. And they put her ass in the car, bro. Who is in that car? Who's sitting in that seat just behind the one where the door's open? Look, if ever anyone's being put in a car, she's like, no. And they put her inside the car, bro.
I think that's one of those clones that only lasts like 18 hours. And this was like 17 and a half hours. And so, we need to go after these people. We need to hold these people accountable. I am so looking forward to a decade of justice. How can we do this? And how about this? Let's take a break for football. And instead of teams, everyone hire a constitutional lawyer, and let's see whose constitutional lawyer can put more people in jail. I want that instead of football for 1 year. Let's just take a break. We'll come back to football for 1 year. Everyone pick a constitutional lawyer per state, and let's see whose constitutional lawyer can put the most corrupt people in prison. Let's see who could save the most kids. You know, all those kids that are currently being trafficked in our country. Why don't we do something about that before they're no longer still alive?
Let's take a break real quick. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Shop with America, where the emphasis is on America. Our movement is to switch away from your shopping with the big box stores and the mega corporations back to supporting family-owned, made in America. We've been giving these big box stores our money every day for years. But what's happened is they forced many small businesses to shut down. We call this the illusion of choice. We see all these products in these stores, but in reality, it's only a few companies that control it all. There are thousands of lawsuits for health damage because they put profit over our people. But there is another choice. We found a better way. There's a family-owned American factory with product integrity and have always done things the right way for the right reasons. And this company outperforms the big box stores. That's due to their month-to-month shopping club. They make everyday consumer products that we all use and buy again and again, like toothpaste, shampoo, coffee, and organic beef. Go to shopwithamerica.us today.
So, in closing, guys, what you're watching with these LA riots, what you're watching from the left and the things that they're doing is a concerted, organized effort to paint the good guy as the bad guy and the bad guy as the good guy. And the end result, what they want to do is cause so much chaos that it breaks out all across the United States. Then when Trump sends in the military, as he will and he should, they're going to try to paint him as a dictator. And when he does it without governor approval, they're going to try to use that as a way to say he's a tyrant, and they're going to try to impeach him. Because, you know, they scream the loudest when you're right over the sore spot, right? So I said this before, and I'll say it again. Be the tyrant, Trump. Be it. Do exactly what they're thinking that you're going to do. Do whatever you have. You have 4 years. 4 years in which to do your absolute most. Whatever that looks like. Fix this country. Get the illegals out. Lock up the subversive people in our Congress, in our Senate. Quit letting them bastardize and hide behind laws that were meant to protect us and calling it democracy. Quit allowing them to call anarchy freedom and freedom anarchy when it's something altogether different. Clean up the colleges and the universities. Get rid of the Marxist professors. Get rid of the ideology. It's the ideology and the culture that is the problem in this country. It is not the free expression and the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and whatever else they try to use to divide us. It is communism and socialistic and Marxist beliefs that are destroying and eroding our republic. And at any cost, no matter what it is, you need to destroy that ideology. And whatever they call you in the process, whatever they blame you for, who gives a total damn what they think? Fix it. We're behind you. This is what I voted for. Go ahead.
Yeah, we want to be careful because we know that anything that we do, our enemies can do against us. So I just want to give everyone a little suggestion that's been working for me. Instead of making large, generalizations about these type of people, those type of people, let's just hold guilty people accountable. Karen Bass, communism is antithetical to our system and it doesn't work within our system, but she let LA burn to the ground because she didn't do her job. She's now letting non-citizens attack law enforcement, claiming that they have right. They're not citizens. And if for a way forward, I would like to see us just, instead of making generalizations, instead of trying to win those huge sweeping arguments, instead of talking about the people at the top, why don't we just start finding people who are doing things wrong, that are hurting our country, that are hurting our citizens? Let's hold them accountable. Yep. And let's start there.
Accountability is something that we are completely lacking. And as a result, what it does is it gives equal footing to the anarchists because they appear to be law-abiding citizens just doing what the United States Constitution gives them the right to do. And that's why I say consistently, stop playing like you're talking or dealing with someone who's on your level. You're dealing with criminals. Treat them like criminals. Lock them up. If Gavin Newsom says lock him up, lock him up. Do it. Go there. Send the Marines there. Take California over. Get rid of the leadership there. There's no such thing as a sanctuary city. Sanctuary city is just code for sedition. They're breaking the law. They're violating federal law. There's no such thing as a way to label, we're a sanctuary city, so these federal laws don't exist. There's no such thing. They've subverted language to make people think something that is illegal is legal. It's not.
What would happen if all citizens in sanctuary, I live in a sanctuary city, I'm knocking on my neighbor's doors, I want to go to my city council and threaten all of them with a lawsuit if we don't immediately change it? They don't have a legal right to do that. So why don't you, if you live in a sanctuary city, why don't you organize a couple people and let the city council know that what they're doing is unconstitutional and that they're going to be held accountable?
You imagine how red California would be if the people that live there that actually believed in the Constitution and in a true republic were to actually get together. I mean,
it's all my neighbors. Everyone's the biggest lie told about California is we're a blue state. We're not. We're a red state, but we are so corrupted. And the people who are blue have all the money and the power and are unscrupulous. They will do anything. They will let LA burn to the ground to keep. So until we start playing, and when we're not playing on the same level, until we meet that with honor and honesty and intelligence, which we can do, until we start doing that, why would these cities not be a sanctuary? No one's threatening them with a lawsuit. Let's threaten all these people with a lawsuit and say, if you want to keep this a sanctuary city, no problem. But you're going to spend the rest of your money in jail as a traitor. You don't get to choose not to follow federal law to let illegal people in here. That's stealing my resources and my wealth. We're open to immigration, but we have a system. You don't get to jump the line.
That's right. That's right. And a lot of people that have waited in Canada or UK or wherever the hell you come from, you're waiting 10 years and you're being vetted and you're keeping your nose clean just for someone to come to our border and just jump in front of the line and bastardize our laws. Hell, they came from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, China, everywhere. We're not the closest third country to places like that. So why do they get to use our asylum laws? They don't, is the real thing. And then the thing I keep bringing up is getting rid of the contract with BOME and getting rid of the criteria of taking DNA from the children as they came in unaccompanied and then just handing them off to the first stranger whose ever phone number was written on their arm or whatever card had a number on it to call when they arrived. That is our government assisting in human trafficking. 350,000 children are now missing.
Is it, or is it us? Because I'm going to take some responsibility here. I'm a grown man. I'm a smart man. I know children are being hurt. What am I doing about it? I'm organizing. I'm trying to get a lawyer up as quick as I can. But, for a country of men who have done great things, they're going to look back at this time and say, what were you guys doing that you knew about Epstein, that you have people making documentaries saying, we know there are hundreds to 300,000 children who are not with their parents, who may either be under sexual and death threats. Many of them never to be seen again. What are we doing about it? Because we keep saying the government. Who? No one. When the good people start getting together behind lawyers and getting militias, I cannot wait for a sheriff to deputize a militia and say, we're going to get the kids. Are there no heroes left?
It's a good question. What are you going to close with?
I'm where the difference is going to be made here. The difference is going to be made because of people like Eddie and because of you viewers out there that are ready to hear the truth. And I'm very excited because I think that we're at the point of another American Renaissance. And all I could say is we're going to do it together. So let's keep speaking the truth, but let's make sure that truth has an effect. So there's going to be a lawyer somewhere going after these people in government. If not, we're just talking, and it's time we take some more action.
No more Monday morning quarterbacking and not getting out there in the streets and getting involved. There is something that you can do. There is an office you can run for. There is a way for you to dip your toe in the water, and you need to find out what it is. There is one near every one of us, no matter where we live in this country of ours. That system is not closed off to us. Find out what it is near you and do it. So beyond that is what I usually say, and I usually mean when I say it. The silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. Evil will never retreat willingly. It must, in every case, be beaten back. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Have a great one. And Donald Trump, don't slow down. Speed up, if anything. This is what we voted for.
My people of this country, and we're under attack. They ban us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough.
This is the Patriots Prayer Podcast. It's a tremendous show, one of the greatest shows in the history of the world.
This is Bryson Gray, and you are watching the Patriots Prayer.
PPN, you're doing the right thing.
On the Patriots Prayer Network. Thank you all.
PPN on your bumper.
I'm Tom McDonald. This is the Patriot Prayers Network. Check it out. Lots of good TV. Lots of cool people. Tune in. Keep it locked.
Know where I stand. I'm the white boy with the middle fingers in the air, dog. We don't give a what. 100 white boys gonna hold me down anywhere, dog. We think that you suck. My Patriots the craziest. They ain't afraid of breaking fists on faces. If you really wanna taste of this, no safety tip. The same mistake and spray the clip. I pray you miss, cause if you don't, they gon' go wacko. Automatic gun smoke like tobacco. Never hit a lady, but it's pretty hard to tell if you're a girl or a they, them. There's these, that, those. I ain't never gonna take a knee for the anthem. Smack them. I don't give a damn, can't stand them. Gang full of randoms. Fan with a handgun. Run up in your mansion, leave it all abandoned. I was raised to be brave to the grave. United States, we love the country that they've been corrupting. Go woke and go broker if you ain't obeyed. My people of this country, and we're under attack. They ban us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flag.